Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Create the Ripple podcast. I'm your host, Candace Smiley. Here we trust the ningle and we tell the truth. This is a podcast. We are looking to have conversations that matter, conversations that take courage to engage in, where we cut through the noise that exists online to bring you incredible content, amazing speakers, and stories to inspire you to live your best, listen to yourself, and tell the truth of who you are and who you just might become. All right. Well, welcome back to another episode of the Create the Ripple podcast. I am your host, Candace Smiley. I'm really excited for my guest today. And my listeners, well, they know this, Bob. Like every time I start, I say I'm excited. And I think I do get excited. I'm such an introvert. And so I'm quite happy to stay at home in my tiny house, not see people. And then I get on this and it feels like work. And then I start talking to people. I'm like, okay, no, this is actually really, really fun. So anyway, today my guest is all about the money. And there's a huge part of my story, Bob, that talks about not having a lot of money. And so I'm quite excited to wander around and have some conversations. But you've also got some really interesting parts of your story that include things like Mount Everest and Kilimanjaro. And I was like, who is this money dude? And how do I get a chance to talk to him? So anyway, without any further ado, Bob, let's give the listeners, a bit of a bio so we know why I'm talking to you. And then we'll jump into some questions.
Well, Candace, it's great to be here. I'm sure lots of people are like, why are we talking to Bob? I get that a lot. So my story is, I, like every kid, I wanted to be a lawyer. And I took accounting just to help my grade point average because it was something that came easy to me. I met a few lawyers when I was in college and I thought, I don't really want to be a lawyer.
What? No, they make good money though, Bob. They make really good money.
They do. And sometimes they make really good people, but not always. And so, I got into accounting and, for me, I got into accounting just because it was very logical. It's a very closed system. 2 + 2 is 4. If it's not, something's wrong. And I really liked the safety in that. So I really felt safe in a very logical closed system. And I started my own accounting practice about 10 years after working for other people. And I discovered that a lot of my tax appointments were turning into therapy sessions. At the same time, I was exploring my own financial pitfalls and my own emotional blocks and beliefs around money so that I could tell you what to do and then I would absolutely not do the same thing. And so I had to look at all that. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, I was doing stand-up comedy. And I got pulled into the Comedy Store to help get them out of some trouble back in the day. And so I've been there 25 years as the CFO. I have my own accounting practice. I brought on a partner. In between times, I also got certified in somatic therapy, radical aliveness, and core energetics because I needed to actually get to know myself and deal with my own traumas. And so then I wrote a book about money and emotions. I started doing workshops. Basically, I want to have conversations about money to help remove the stigma of shame around financial literacy and to let people know they are not alone. So many people feel alone in their financial isolation and people have committed suicide. People have all kinds of things. And I just really, as I realized in my own journey, so many people have just so much hidden shame. And I just wanted to start these conversations saying, hey, you know what? Most of us didn't get the download. It's okay.
Yes. And I love that you bring that up because a huge part of my story is, and I'm not sure if you've read into my story, but basically I grew up with amazing parents who taught me how to have incredible money skills. I didn't really enjoy algebra, to be honest, but math was okay, right? I keep bugging my dad, you see, because I say, Dad, I'm still not sure why you put me through the HELL of algebra because I was home educated. And so we worked through that, he and I. And he said, you might need it one day. That was his line. You might need it one day. And I've been like, Dad, still not using it.
Still not using it.
No. It would have been okay to say no. But, here I was, and fast forward a few years, and I met a gentleman, and I trusted, that he had the same values and ethics and integrity that I did, and he did not. And he left me and the country. And my little portion of the debt that he left behind was only $350,000. Now I was
Yeah, not
26
bad.
years old. Yeah, I know, right? When
Yeah.
I woke up and discovered it felt like a just awful spiral as I was going
Yeah.
down. And because I'd had good education on money, I had no idea how to deal with the bad side of not having money. And so that meant foreclosure courts and creditors calling. And I had a great trustee, but I had to go through a few before I found one. And you're right, the shame and the stigma of what I was going through um, kept me silent. And it affected relationships, it affected friendships, it affected whatever, where people were like, "You're not being honest." And I was like, "Yeah, because I got this big debt. And so I'm saying no to this opportunity because I literally am not sure how I'm paying the bills." Right? That sort of thing. And it's caused a huge amount of distrust, not just in the bigger systems, but in other people. And mostly, and first and foremost, myself. And that's really what my podcast talks about, where we're trusting the niggle and telling the truth. And I share that with you just so that we are all sort of all on the same playing field. And for my
Yeah.
listeners who are listening in, that, when they hear, what we've gone through. Now, I chose not to claim bankruptcy and I chose to really get educated right away. Um, represented myself because for me, the knowledge is power, right? I really wanted to know what I was stepping into. But
Yeah.
fighting that shame has certainly been a huge part of it. And so I would love to talk more about that because I know that you've done a lot of that. You said you went, at least in your bio, there was some stuff about how you went to Africa and that really changed your money story. So you've heard mine. Let's hear a
Yeah.
little bit about yours.
Yeah. So I didn't grow up with parents that knew lots about money. We pretended like we were upper middle class, but there were five kids. My dad, I think probably made $18,000 a year. And it was tight. And if our grandparents gave us money to put in a piggy bank, our parents might borrow it, and we might not see it again. So I was not really taught to be like, oh, save your money and do this, and great things will happen. So that part was tough. And then I didn't know that you could say no. I didn't know you could change your mind. These were the rules handed down. I thought everybody else got them. Apparently they did not. And, and growing up, there was, I know you talk about your trauma and it's not really the same, but we all have different traumas, but for us growing up, brush your teeth, right? Smack your face. So it would have been helpful to know, oh, cavities, right? But that was sort of how we learned. So when I got to college, I had an opportunity to go to this really wealthy school with a lot of people that, flew in on their private jets. And I was this little country hick, running around in my little polyester outfits from Montgomery Ward's. And it was a big eye-opening experience and probably pivotal in changing my life. I still struggle with scarcity. I still sometimes I got to have 6 months in my pantry. People are like, you're insane. I still, even though it would take probably a good long time for all my money to go away, I'm still like, if I stop this week and slow down, it could all go away. And even though I know it's not true, I have to talk myself out of that sometimes because it just was so ingrained. And I didn't have a safety net. It was me. Like my parents, I'm not inheriting anything. I'll probably be helping them out. And there's not blame here. I want to make that clear too. My parents did the best they could. I think most parents do. They don't go into the world saying, let's torment this child. They're like,
Yes.
no,
Yes.
let's try really hard. And then, oh, we missed a couple. We didn't make the goal. But, so it's taken a long time to look at my own stuff, be able to forgive myself, move past a lot of self-sabotage that I did, and a lot of shame because I didn't know. And I got into accounting because it was something that was easy for me, but around money beliefs and all that stuff, I didn't have the mindset. And so only rich people traveled. So when I took my first trip, that was like, what? I'm not rich and I'm on a plane going to another country. Africa taught me, because what I was taught was that I am what my accomplishments are, right? So I have no value as a person unless I'm accomplishing. Well, as soon as you accomplish it, you got to do 3 more things because that was yesterday. And so when I got to Africa, and nobody was trying to accomplish things, they were just like living and sharing and being grateful. And I'm like, what is wrong with these people?
What is wrong with you people? Yes.
don't you understand? So that really was a big, really messed with my mind. And I really shifted and was able to see, wow, if we can come from a place of gratitude, how much better my life feels and how much more meaning it has. And so even though I fight that sometimes, that I've like, I got to accomplish, I got to get the list even bigger. There's a part of me that's really learned to say, like, just show up and this is enough. And just be present, and really coming from gratitude, I think has really shifted my perspective.
Yeah. Incredible. Yeah, the scarcity one's a big deal. I can remember very clearly when I realized that there was nothing, and in fact there was a very scary big number of the wrong side of the finances, that that need to work and secure and backup, and has just and it's like every level I go up a level, and I'm like, okay, where is scarcity going to show up over here? Because I know I have to dig it out. And you're right. It's that whole, can I just relax? A couple weeks ago, my dad and I, we went skidooing, and I've never, done that with him. My brother did a lot more of that than I did, just based on how we grew up. And it was just a lot of fun. And I was out there and I felt so happy. And I know the word we're supposed to be looking for is joy, but I was really happy in that moment. And I thought, you know what? I really want to bring this moment in and anchor it into this moment, right? Because it was such a big moment. Everything's fine. You're in a good place. You're starting to move forward, right? You're not going to lose it all. You've learned a few things. And so I understand that completely. That now on the other side, it can almost be like debilitating to say, do I take this risk or do I not take this risk? Right? Like, what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. So I'm a little jealous, Bob. Been to base camp on Mount Everest.
Yeah.
What? How does an accountant get there? Tell me that.
One step at a time. Yeah. Well, I found, so my first mountain was Mount Kilimanjaro. I met this woman. We became really good friends when I was in Greece, taking my first non-rich trip. And she goes, oh, if you think this is cool, let's go to Africa for a month. And I'm like, you want me to take off time from work and you want me to go just like relax and have a good time? That's so stressing. So we went to Africa, we climbed Mount Kilimanjaro and ran a marathon, because you sort of have to make it a practical trip, right? You got to fit everything in.
Yep.
And then after that, she said, oh, well, if you think Africa's the bomb, no, we got to go to Nepal. We're going to do base camp. And that had been something she'd always wanted to do. And I was like, all right, I'm game, because people around me didn't travel. And I was like, it was new to me. I always wanted to, but I just never did. So went to Nepal, went to India, and we did the first time we actually didn't get to base camp, because our guide was Canadian English and he hated Americans. And I don't know why he kept telling us how much he hated Americans, because we're like, we're Americans. So like, if you're telling us you hate us. So he detoured us and we couldn't make the climb. So we went back 10 years later. And it's funny because my friend had a Christmas card having her at base camp, but she didn't actually make it. So we had to go back and make that picture real. And so we went back and I made sure we didn't have that guide. And we got to base camp. And I got to tell you, I mean, and you probably know this because you like going in the back mountains and stuff. It's a mental, it's not, it's like base camp, you don't have like ropes and you're repelled. It's a mindset. You're at high altitudes, but it's really telling yourself you can do it. And it's all about mindset. And I love going up into the mountains. It's a challenge. And if I fail, it's just probably my fault, or, maybe nature did something, but I don't have to rely on anybody else. And so base camp to me was an amazing experience. And it also taught me or reinforced this thing about baby steps, because everybody on my team wanted to quit the first day. And me being an accountant said, I just spent $10,000 to get here. I'm going to base camp. We're not quitting. Yeah. And so I just said, like, I paid for it. I'm cheap. I'm frugal. Yep. Basically what I did was I said to everybody, look, why don't we just agree to hike an hour? And then let's vote and see if we want to hike another hour. And so what we did was the first several days, we negotiated every hour whether we were going to continue or not. And that made it so palatable that after we were going a few days, people were like, we can do this, and then it got to 2 hours, then it got to half a day. And ultimately we stayed the course, but I wasn't giving up my money.
Mhm.
I was going to do that. I was doing that trek, and it was amazing. It was amazing.
Yeah. So I know you do a lot, and especially in your book, and kudos, for writing the book. This is definitely something I'm going to be sharing because, of course, one of the number one questions I get from a lot of people, usually very quietly and anonymously through doing the podcast, is, I'm in trouble. Whether it's a woman attempting to, leave a marriage, and now she's a single mom, and what does that mean, right? Because there's certainly a gap. There was for me anyway, between leaving and support showing up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for a lot of us, it's a struggle anyway. But it's like, okay, how do I find people who can support me? Because I am in trouble now and moving forward. I know you wrote a book about this. So let's sort of weave that in there because I know there's going to be listeners who are, waiting for some actionable, hey, I'm kind of in trouble, or hey, I might be in trouble. What's next for somebody who's looking to, maybe fix that, or maybe they know that, their emotions are so wrapped up in it. I mean, I think
Mhm.
that's a really big deal, right? In terms of how,
Absolutely.
yeah.
It's absolutely. And for women, it's doubly hard, especially some women that are taught to rely on their partner, and they haven't created financial support for themselves, or they don't, have a little hidden fund that they need to like be building up so that they can, when it's time to launch and be able to walk away. And so I think it's important to reach out for help, and it's important to trust your instinct and trust your gut. If somebody doesn't feel right, or somebody starts going, well, that's stupid, and why, yeah, wrong, like run in the other direction.
Yeah,
You have
run.
to, you
Run.
gotta run.
Yeah.
You have to create safety. You have to create a space that feels safe. And everybody's definition of safety is different. But if you're not feeling safe with the people you're seeking out to help, they're not the people to help you. There are kind, wonderful, amazing beings out there that have been put on this planet to help all of us out. I certainly had lots of angels guiding me when I shouldn't have. So it's just so important to trust. Sometimes your family is not who you can trust.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not your partner who you can trust, and you've got to find those people, and just look for clues to start to say, wait, okay, I need help. Can you just give me a little bit of a hand? I'm not asking you to lift me up to the top of the mountain, but can you just give me a hand? Can you help pull me into the shallow water? And then maybe if I get to the shallow water, then I can get to land. And if I get to land, maybe then I can. So it doesn't happen all overnight. But it is important to start using the left hand and the right hand, and reaching out and saying, I can't do this alone. And probably it's, I would say for myself to go, and I'm scared. Like, I'm terrified.
Mhm.
And that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it starts with giving yourself a permission to have a little bit of a voice and doing something a little bit different than what you believe is to be true.
I love that. I think about that a lot because I know that I interviewed a number of like trustees when I was looking for someone to support me. And a number of them made me feel very, very bad about where I was at. And I remember thinking, you're supposed to help me. I get that you have to, help people collect the money that, is owed, but you could be kind about it.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a DICK about it.
Yeah.
And, so that meant I went somewhere else. And, I would encourage a lot of people, you're right, that is a lot about saying scared. And for me too, and I feel like this is important to mention, because I was such at a disadvantage and felt like I was so overwhelmed by so many different pieces, I became a target for a lot of people who then wanted to further, use and manipulate. And so, going back to your point to trust your gut, be very careful because there are really great people who are not going to judge you because you're in a financial mess. Even if you're the one that got yourself there, they're going to support you if you're ready to make the change. And watch out for the wolves and the vultures because they do exist. So
they are out there. Yeah. So tread lightly and like move forward and check things out. Trust but verify.
Trust but verify. I love that. I feel like that would be a very good thing for a lot of us women because, like I was telling you before we started the show, I'm very creative. And so I tend to make a lot of decisions based on my intuition. And I have a beautiful partner right now who says I'm not always sure that making those decisions from that purely emotional place is always wise. And I can't always argue with that particular logic. So I like this, make the decision and then verify. Anyway, as we're sort of coming to this, place, and of course we're going to have links to connect with you in the show notes. So if someone's listening, I mean, that's a big part of my podcast, right? I want people who are in trouble to sense that they can trust you. And so then they
Yeah.
can go and follow along. So we'll have all of that. But what is something you'd love to leave the listener today if they've listened in and there's like, okay, what's next?
I think the biggest thing that I would say to people out there is learn how to stay in difficult conversations. Learn how to stay when it feels impossible. To just learn to stay, because when we're moving away from all of our history, from our trauma, it sometimes feels like I know for me, everything was going to kill me. Like I will not get through it. And when I was able to learn to stay, when I was able to meet my trauma, even through altered states and some real intense stuff where I'm like, I'm out, learning to stay and learning to say, wait a minute, this didn't kill me. Like maybe I can go a little further. Maybe I can go a little further. Like I would say, like, yeah, I would want to leave people with hope that it is possible. Like I thought that I was never going to be able to have a voice, be able to get, like 20 years ago, you said I was going to be on a podcast, maybe even 10 years ago, out talking.
And you're a great podcast guest, by the way, just so you know. I mean, I know you have your own podcast. We'll have a link to that down below, but you're also a really great guest. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. And I stayed silent for so long, and I just thought I'm just going to die quietly and just, but I think there are people out there, so I just say there's hope. Like it's never too late. It's never too late to decide this is the day I'm not putting up with this anymore. This is the day that I actually advocate for myself. Vigilant self-care, as a friend of mine likes to say. And it's like, ask for help. Like there are people out there that will receive it. And even if you ask 20 times or 50 times, you just haven't found the right person. Keep asking. It only takes one yes to really actually shift your life. And it's worth it.
Totally worth it. Wow. Well, Bob, I was not expecting this, like I said, when I looked to say, who was coming in on the podcast today, but I feel like this has been one of my favorites that we've recorded to date, just based on how you've shown up. So thank you for that. And I think in terms of what we're sharing with people, because we do need to start talking about these things and share from this space. And I love what you'd said about staying in the tough conversations. I think that's advice and wisdom that we can take into a lot of areas in our life. Because you're right, we're not always given the download that's what you need to do and lean into that which is uncomfortable, whether it's a conversation about money or whether it's being real with yourself about what you need to be doing to be moving your life forward. So thank you for joining me today.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're so welcome. And for the rest of my listeners, you know the deal. We're going to have all of Bob's information down below in the show notes. Please go and check him out. Grab a copy of his book. I am definitely going to grab one of these and share it, because I think that these kinds of conversations are the ones that take courage to have. And they're definitely the kind that we need to be having more of. And so for the rest of you, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the flip side.
Here at Awakening the Wise Woman, we know what it's like to start the year with a big, audacious, exciting goal in mind and get to mid-February and realize we've made zero progress towards it. That's why this year we're inviting you to join us in our Awakening Your Goddess Mindset free workshop series at the end of February. This is an opportunity to understand more about yourself and how you work and how to make meaningful change your way. We'd love to see you there.
Hello friends, my name is Rachel Shumway, here to help you set loving boundaries so you can have the best relationship with the most important person in your life, you. Because when you uphold your boundaries, you gain the courage to open up and let yourself be seen, loved, and supported. Through a mix of coaching, cognitive restructuring, and step-by-step conversation strategies, which all starts with my free 4-step badass boundaries process, I give type A, really like type awesome women, the tools to bring confidence into the relationships with authenticity and ease. You can get started by grabbing your free starter kit on how to badassify your boundaries by clicking on the link in the show notes to get started. See you soon!